Colombian President Gustavo Petro held his first Security Council, including social leaders, and calling the meeting as a Human Security Council. Also, Ukraine delays the grain shipments to Africa, despite the harsh food situation in that continent. Supporters of Iraq's powerful Shiite Muslim leader Muqtada Sadr performed Friday prayers outside the parliament building in the green zone of the capital Baghdad. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Colombian President Gustavo Petro held on Thursday his first Security Council from the department of Chocó in the northwest of the country. During the official event, he announced that from now on, the Security Councils will be renamed as Human Security Council. Therefore, they will no longer be an exclusive space for the armed forces. Thus, Petro is fulfilling a promise he made to the citizens of Chocó in Cocho days before his inauguration, that such spaces will include institutions other than the military for a more comprehensive approach to the issue of violence. Petro said that there are many social circumstances that add to the issue of violence, so the solution requires the partaking of all sectors of the society in every region. This last Security Council meeting focused on the risks facing youngsters.
We had a Security Council with the care and leadership of law enforcement. It is the first one for us, and we wanted it to be here because of the risk situation facing the population of Chocó, especially its youth. Therefore, we need to implement a concept that we have been championing, but that now we will be putting into practice, which is a concept of human security for the pacification and recovery of life in the department of Chocó.
The Colombian government delegation to the peace talks in Havana reiterates its willingness to resume the peace process with the National Liberation Army, the ELN, in Cuba. In the first statement, Colombian Foreign Minister Álvaro Leiva Durán thanked Cuba for its support and said the Caribbean island was a land of peace, highlighting also its role as a guarantor country. Likewise, Durán said that for more than 40 years, Cuba has received several Colombian delegations in search of developing different peace processes, not only with the extinct FARC, but also with different guerrillas, and recalled that Havana was the venue for the dialogues between the Colombian state and the former guerrillas as a guarantor region for the final agreement.
We express Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez that Colombia rejects the classification of sponsors of terrorism with which they have tried to ignore Cuba's commitment to peace in Colombia and the world. We are here precisely because of the opposite. We aspire to resume the dialogues with the National Liberation Army in this land of peace in order to begin the path proposed by President Pedro Urrego to reach total peace.
In relation to the visit of Colombia's delegation to Havana, Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla highlighted the significance of the event for the relations between the two countries.
The fact that this visit is taking place only 4 days after President Gustavo Petro Urrego's inauguration is of great significance for relaunching and deepening relations between the governments and the peoples of Colombia and Cuba, to which we are linked by deep cultural and historical ties.
In this regard, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla reflected earlier in his Twitter account. I have received the Colombian delegation chaired by its Foreign Minister Álvaro Leiva, made up of Danilo Rueda, High Commissioner for Peace, and Senator Iván Cepeda, the President of the Peace Commission of the Colombian Senate. And we end the quote. Thousands of university students have designed activities and taken to the streets to defend democracy and oppose Bolsonaro's attempts to further privatize the sector. The gathering also aims at raising awareness on the need to bring Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva to power in Brazil.
To commemorate August 11th, National Students' Day, Thousands of Brazilians gathered at universities across the country for public readings of a manifesto in defense of democracy, which already has over 1 million signatures, then took to the streets in 49 cities to protest far-right President Bolsonaro's dismantling of the public education system and his threats to sabotage this year's elections.
We have come out today to occupy the streets of Recife, and we are occupying streets all over Brazil to denounce everything that Bolsonaro has done, not just to our universities, but to our entire country.
For the last year, President Bolsonaro and top military brass have made repeated claims that Brazil's electronic voting system is susceptible to fraud, without providing any evidence. Many are worried that if he loses re-election, like his idol Donald Trump, he'll cry fraud, refuse to accept the results, and try to hold an auto-coup.
We are out here today in defense of democracy and of free elections. We, students of Pernambuco, will not let Bolsonaro destroy our universities.
Brazilian university students are especially worried that if Bolsonaro manages to hold on to power illicitly, he will use dictatorial powers to destroy the quota system that reserves over half the space in public universities for the working class and poor, and will start charging for tuition.
You can be a student and not defend democracy and our right to education. So we are here to show that we are against the Bolsonaro government and to say that the only way to unite Brazilian students and restore the education system is through the election of Lula.
Brian Mir, TeleSUR, Recife.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Argentina has registered the highest inflation in the last 20 years. Faced with the situation, President Alberto Fernandez calls for answers as society. The Argentinian president said that his government is making every effort to bring down inflation. This Thursday, the National Institute of Statistics and Census reported that in July, the Consumer Price Index was 7.5%, the highest since 2002. The figure even exceeds that of other countries in the region that have suffered hyperinflation. Fernandez said that he is perfectly aware of the inflation problem and that, for that reason, he has implemented measures he deems will be effective.
I do not want to give you a speech that will in the end make you say, but what's with this guy? Can't he see what's happening with prices? Yes, I do see it, and yes, it worries me. And that's why we have left all the parities open so that your salaries may beat inflation.
In Peru, the unions in the south of the country have declared themselves on alert in view of the seriousness of the political crisis, and they are considering mobilizing against the National Congress. The unions met in Cusco hours after it was made public that the General Attorney's Office opened a new investigation against President Pedro Castillo, and that opposition groups have tried to hasten the approval of the mechanisms to have the president removed. The unions consider that the prosecutor's office is not objective in its actions, and they ratify that they are considering joining the public demonstrations in support of the president. The Departmental Federation of Workers of Cusco said they are organized at national level and declared themselves on alert in the face of the coup movements in the opposition. In Peru, the institutional crisis that has been denounced by several social and trade union movements has reached the Peruvian Congress. In the last session, former Congress President María del Carmen Alba assaulted the Congressperson Isabel Cortés. Congresswoman Alba, representing the Popular Action Party, assaulted Congresswoman of Juntos por el Perú, or Together for Peru, after several legislators asked for the intervention of the current Congress President, Lady Camones, after a speech by Congresswoman Alba that some colleagues deem offensive. Congresswoman Alba has been reported to have manifested racist and classist attitudes. These images are increasingly common in the highest body of the Peruvian legislative power. On Thursday, northwest Mexico was shaken by violence. Ciudad Juárez, the capital of the state of Chihuahua, reported murders, attacks, and fires at businesses following withdrawal by a social rehabilitation center number 3. Regional authorities reported that around 1300 hours local time, the inmates, organized in clans, engaged in a brawl that left 3 dead. The quick response of security forces prevented the brawl from spreading. Hours later, a series of attacks were reported. One of the most serious events took place against the radio station Mega Radio. 4 of its workers were killed while broadcasting from outside a piazza parlor. Due to the seriousness of the events, several public organizations as well as the Autonomous University of Ciudad Juárez suspended all activities this Friday. The regional government has said through a communique that a security operation has been deployed. Johnson & Johnson announced that it is withdrawing baby powder from the market. Thousands of complaints claim it causes cancer because it contains asbestos. The American multinational company has received more than 38,000 complaints, according to which the product known as Johnson's baby powder produces the disease. The company assures that its products do not contain the carcinogenic substance, despite the fact that in 2017, a woman in Los Angeles won a lawsuit against them, which resulted in $417 million payment. In the last hours, the multinational company has said that in order to optimize its products and to better position itself in the market, it will withdraw the powder from 2023 and will only use cornstarch powder in similar products. And a few hours after the director of the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, denounced that the agency is the target of threats, a gunman attempted to enter its offices in Cincinnati and was neutralized. According to agency information, the man set off the alarms when he attempted to breach the visitor detection facilities. The FBI response was lethal after another pursuit. Bureau Director Christopher Wray reiterated, after confirming the death of the man whose identity was not reported, that threats against federal agents erode the rule of law. In view of the seriousness of the facts that have arisen following the statements made by former President Donald Trump regarding the raid on his residence, the United States Attorney General Merrick Garland responded to the accusations of the former president, who is under investigation for illegal document theft.
First, I personally approve of the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not make such a decision lightly. Whenever possible, it is a standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to limit the scope of any search that is conducted.
And regarding the situation that has arisen after the former President Trump's follower made dangerous calls against federal institutions, the prosecutor Garland assured that he will not remain indifferent. He also said that the FBI and the Justice Department agents are true patriots.
Let me address the recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of FBI and Justice Department agents and prosecutors. I will not be silent when their integrity is unfairly attacked. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated and patriotic public servants.
Now we move on to other topics. Although leaders of the Eurogroup accuse Russia of the serious food situation in the countries of the African continent, the first humanitarian ship to that part of the world has not yet left. At least 3 caravans with millions of tons of grain and cereals left Ukrainian ports, but none headed for the African continent. The first ship of the World Food Programme will leave the port of Odessa for Ethiopia this Friday. Moscow has eased all the operations, while Kiev, the honorary partner of the Eurogroup, unnecessarily delayed the shipments by refusing to clear the channels immediately. Once the ship loads the grain in the port of Odessa, it will have to sail to Ukraine, which, according to the multilateral agreement, coordinates the exit through the Black Sea. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Supporters of Iraq's powerful Shiite Muslim leader Muqtada Sadr performed Friday prayers outside the parliament building in the green zone of the capital Baghdad. Sadr followers continue to protest against the nomination of a rival Shiite faction for the position of prime minister. Most were dressed in black to mark the Muslim month of Muharram, and some wore white capes symbolizing burial shrouds and their willingness to die for the cause. The protesters have occupied the Iraqi parliament since July after a 10-month political stalemate that followed elections last October. Sadr withdrew his lawmakers from the parliament and is now preventing the chamber from electing a new government and is demanding early elections. Ethiopia said on Friday it has completed the third filling of its mega dam on the Blue Nile, a development that could raise further tensions with downstream neighbors Egypt and Sudan. The announcement comes a day after Ethiopia said it had launched electricity production from the second turbine at the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, west of the country. The massive 4.2 billion dam, said to be the largest hydroelectric project in Africa, and has been at the center of a regional dispute ever since Ethiopia broke ground on the project in 2011. There is still no agreement between Ethiopia and its downstream neighbors, Egypt and Sudan, about the dam's operations, despite the talks held under the auspices of the African Union.
In this location, it is with great joy that I announce that the third round of filling of the dam is complete. Compared to last year, when the water level was at 575 meters, we have reached 600 meters, which is 25 meters higher than the previous filling of the dam.
And the rescue ship Sea-Watch 4, belonging to the German non-governmental organization Sea-Watch, has been authorized to dock with almost 90 migrants on the board on the islands of Sicily in southern Italy. Italian authorities communicated the permission to the crew a few hours ago. The ship rescued 90 asylum seekers a week ago in the central Mediterranean, an area under the responsibility of the Maltese authorities, who denied the request to dock in their ports. So the rescue ship was forced to head for Italy, and after several days of wait, it is sailing to the Italian port, where it is expected to dock on Friday. Chinese Chancellor Wang Yi warned that the situation with Taiwan will not end properly or well. The diplomat assures that the United States will use its ability to intensify the crisis. At an open statement, the foreign minister recalled that it is now his country's responsibility that the status quo in the Taiwan Strait is changing. He stated also that Washington's political provocations generated the tensions and ratified that the situation has not yet calmed down. Beijing remains on alert because it believes that the United States will try to increase its military presence in the region. The head of China's diplomacy also urged politicians in other countries to not support secessionist intentions, as they contribute to undermine the foundation of relations with China. TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now, more than ever, the world connects to us, and our stories are heard in other farther away nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. So we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.